because it's actually attempting to, as we speak, to break out. You can see the chart behind me and how we've been relatively range-bound, kind of contained, but we're seeing some enthusiasm. Shares of ticker PLTR are now attempting to get something going here out of this range that we had been in. So you're looking back at price activity throughout this week here. We've had a pretty well-defined upper extreme around this 1920 level, pretty well-defined lower around 1770. Joe was talking about 18. I've got my eye on the 1850 area just because it's the middle of the range. So we're holding above that right now, attempting to get something going to the upside. That's very bullish in many ways. Again, you only get a limited amount of information on this chart because we're talking 5-minute candles, a contained trade, but attempting to break out here. Let me show you what's going on as we step back. The reason I'm sort of leaning into the bullish narrative, not only because of the breakout that we just looked at on the 5-minute time frame, but also because as we go back here now a couple weeks, you can see areas of consolidation that have formed at higher and higher levels. In this instance, formed one around 1475 throughout last week. We broke out to the upside. We balanced around 1775 into the beginning of this week. But you can see how most of the week, again, that same pattern I talked at in the beginning of the segment, has been playing out here. High conviction to the upside, sideways consolidation, and look at how we retested this 1775 area a couple times and it's held, right? So that's significant. That's very much supportive of the bullish pattern. If not already, the time frame that we just looked at, the 5, the breakout, the more intermediate in terms of the last couple weeks of price activity, but also this one, right? Supportive of that longer term trend to the upside. Setting our sights here now on this $20 level, the highs that we saw back in July, because again, we've now taken out 17, 18. I think is significant. Joe's looking at 18, but I was focused on 17. Taking that out here now as we open up the door for a retest of 20 here. But again, that same pattern we've been talking about. High conviction to the upside, acceptance, that sideways consolidation. All in all, very bullish here. Another instance of a good example of these two phases of development, the horizontal, the vertical, and the horizontal, and the separation and how we transition from one to the other.
All right. What do you think?
And then on the mission side, we have been saying and building products for a world that is violent, disjointed, irrational, a world in which you have to show strength, a world in which if you do not show strength, people who are biased, xenophobic, dare I say anti-Semitic, will rear their head. A world in which you really have to pick sides. Palantir is the first major company to, in my view, to have said from the beginning a thing that is obviously true. There is no such thing anymore of being on all sides. Palantir only supplies its products to Western allies. We've never supplied our products to enemies. We proudly support the U.S. government. I am proud that we are supporting Israel in every way we can. And we also support plain English speaking. So when people are massacred to the equivalent of almost 50,000 people in Israel, we view it as a terror act. We call it terrorism. We supply our product to people who are fighting terrorism, and we have no problem with describing as it is or sticking up for our allies. And, you know, and we don't provide false context. All of a sudden, you need a lot of context for describing what it means to kill Jews or persecute Jews across the world. I believe in context and where in places where you need to actually provide it. But at Palantir, we have seen that our view of the world, which is that there really are people that are violent and not in conformity with morality, need to be fought. And we are supplying these products that we've built over the last 20 years to our allies, and we are proud of the results. And I would say also even commercially, you are going to see that our alignment with our client, our alignment with our society pays major dividends. And for those of you who are along for the ride, we really celebrate you. And we are going to bring our warrior culture to our products, to our market fit, and the results of which we are going to bring to our allies.
This is also Palantir's fourth quarter of profitability, qualifying it for inclusion in the S&P 500. CEO Alex Karp, he told me yesterday it's very important to him because it makes the company more accessible and also widely held, as it would then be included in the SPY ETF. Karp also says that Palantir continues to work with the U.S. government, emphasized his support for Israel, and confirmed that Palantir works with the Israeli government. He added this about demand and outreach from governments. He said the rise in terrorism, it brings security to the forefront for America and its allies. The only way to effectively and ethically deal with terrorism in combat is to use software. Again, those are Alex Karp's words. Outside of government work, commercial is also the focus. U.S. commercial revenue, that jumped by 33%. Karp said he expects Palantir to be a major player in nearshoring and precision manufacturing, saying in part, "We are now helping manufacturers bring manufacturing they would have done in Asia back to America, because with our product, you can build a factory in America just like it's built in Asia." Again, Palantir shares moving higher after a beat on the bottom line and the top line. Fourth quarter of profitability in a row, allowing it inclusion in the S&P 500.
But I was really struck by that last sentence in that letter that he wrote. You mentioned it, but just to detail it, he says, "We are one of a few companies in the world to stand up and announce our support for Israel, which remains steadfast. Palantir stands with Israel," which is a very different remark and comment than a lot of other CEOs in the West. Some have condemned Hamas, but very few have actually come out publicly and said they support Israel as a country. Right. Of course, Palantir, run by Alex Karp, but backed by Peter Thiel and so many others.
Well, you can imagine that Palantir is not doing business with Hamas, and helping them.
That's for sure.
Well, I just want to be clear. Alex Karp made it clear that they work with the Israeli government, and he is steadfastly standing by Israel. And he made it very clear in his statement to me that he considers Hamas a terror group, as does the U.S. government, to be clear.
But what makes it so interesting is they also work with governments around the world, some of whom historically have been considered allies of America, except that they, at this particular juncture and moment, some of them are not supportive necessarily of what Israel is doing or of supporting Israel per se, right? I mean, I think we've seen a number of U.S. allies not be allied on this particular issue. And so it's a very interesting thing for him to come out as publicly as he has.
Hey there, Oliver. Yes, Palantir got a nice pop yesterday, likely in response to the Israeli conflict, but it's getting another pop today, up about 3% on news that it has a new contract from the U.S. Army worth upwards of $250 million to scale artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. The contract goes through 2026. It'll provide capabilities in support of the combatant commands, armed services, intelligence community, and special forces as they test, use, and scale AI and ML capabilities. Palantir, of course, has partnered with the U.S. Army and other government organizations, but with the U.S. Army since 2018. In response, Palantir's president said, "Maturing new concepts of how we deploy solutions in different contexts is key to maintaining our nation's competitive advantage, and we appreciate the opportunity to support this mission." So giving a nice boost to Palantir shares right now, up about 2.7%. So already off the highs, was up as much as 3.5% just a bit ago. But Palantir up 13% so far in October, up 185% year to date. And, even over the past year, up 124%. I will say it's still half of what it was in early 2021. And I did note that it is trading above its median price target now of $15.50. So it's a couple dollars above that. So something to keep an eye on. But nothing seems to be stopping it today.
Wow, pretty close to 52-week highs. Not a lot of companies in the sector can say that right now. But, trading like a defense stock more than a tech stock. Very good description and observation there, Caroline. Thanks for the heads up.
Our first question is from Christopher. The current situation in Israel has opened the eyes of other allied countries around the globe. Specifically, are there current or future plans of supporting our allied partners in Asia with Palantir products?
Absolutely. The short answer is yes. I think not only can we look at Israel, but we can look even before that at Ukraine and the lessons that we've learned there. And I would distill that down simply to that you must pre-position data, software, and hardware well ahead of the fight there and create a partner mesh network of command and control nodes to really provide a difference here. So that's one major thing. And so we're spending a lot of our time and our energy thinking about how do we get as much mass west of the international dateline as possible to be prepared to meet those moments. And make no mistake, there's a lot to be done there. The other lesson specific from Israel is how much faster you can move when you create a big tent tech ecosystem that allows you to bring a lot of other defense tech startups along with you. The capabilities that we were able to give the Israeli government by bringing in other Israeli startups as well as international startups was incredible. And that's a key lesson that we're taking forward with us as well. And it's embodied and enabled by Palantir Government Web Services.
Thanks, Sham.